Servant leadership is our fifth and final core value in world Indigenous missions. In Matthew 20, Jesus says, "But whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." Jesus modeled true servant leadership, and he taught that true greatness in God's kingdom is measured by our service to others. Jesus said, "I didn't come to be served, but to serve." And as WIM missionaries, we seek to serve Christ by serving one another. We serve Christ by serving one another. Someone shared with me an illustration of a compass to help define who we serve. The question, who do we serve? It's like the needle of a compass that points to north, south, east, and west. North, pointing to the north, we serve those who have authority over us. South, we serve those who are under our authority. East and west, we serve our peers who work beside us. That's who we serve. As I told you, I learned to serve as an orderly in a hospital. You know, when Jesus talks about his church, he doesn't distinguish between himself and his church. When it comes to serving one another or how we treat or relate to one another, Jesus and his church are one. For example, when Paul consented to the death of Stephen and was persecuting the church, he was actually persecuting Jesus. He said, when he knocked him off his horse on the road to Damascus, he said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Why are you persecuting me?" Jesus makes no distinction between himself and his church. So it helps when we realize that when we serve one another, we're actually serving the Lord. Marinelle and I learned a great lesson about serving and what it meant to when we serve the least of these, my brethren, you're serving me, Jesus said. You know that familiar passage. He said, "I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me." And you know, they came to him and said, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or naked or sick?" And he says, "I tell you the truth, when you did it to the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me." That really came home to Marinelle and me during our time in Mexico. We lived on a street where with a lot of traffic, foot traffic, not necessarily cars, but a lot of people passing by. And because there were only like 1 or 2 Americans living in this small town, they showed up at our house asking for food or asking for money, asking for different things. And one day, this old man showed at our house, and he wasn't any different to us than the others. He was just an old, dirty beggar. And he was asking for some food. And Marinelle fed him. She gave him something to eat. Then about a week or 10 days later, he came back and knocked on our gate again and talked with her. And she invited him in that time and gave him something to eat and began to talk with him. And we realized he was a Christian. This old man. And we prayed with him. And he came back maybe a week or two later. He had to walk a long way down through the mountain, down to where we were. And he would stop by and see us. He'd come in and we'd eat together and we'd share some thoughts together and we'd pray together. And he became a brother to us, a Christian brother to us. And then he invited us up to his house, and we went way up into the mountains to visit him and eat with him. And we developed a friendship with him. Friendship. You know, in the beginning, he was just an old beggar. I mean, we had scores coming by our house, and we never really knew their name. We would give them a tract, or we'd give them some food, or sometimes we wouldn't give them anything. And so when we first met him, he was just another beggar. But over time, as I said, we realized he was a Christian. And then from that, we developed a relationship with him, and he became our friend. And then one day he showed up at our house, and coming down the mountain, it had been raining, and it was really slippery, and he had fallen, and his leg was skinned and bleeding. And he came in, and Mary Nell washed his leg, and she was cleaning the sore, the cut there. Then she put some medicine and salve on it and puts a bandage over it. And as she was doing that, and I looked at that man, it became so clear to me that she was ministering to Jesus. You just got that understanding. She was ministering to Jesus. So here this old man who was at one time just a beggar, who realized was a Christian, with whom we developed a friendship with, and later on we realized he was actually Jesus to us. Jesus said, when you do it unto the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me. And I think that's something that we need to keep in mind when we serve, that we're serving the Lord. We have wonderful servants that put me to shame here in this office. Jim Kefauver is the true servant of God. Chris Browse he modeled servant leadership. Glenda, you will meet Glenda Morris. Angeline, every one of the staff members, they're such servants, and they serve the missionaries. And I know that they feel that when they're serving you, and when they're serving the missionaries, they're serving the Lord. Mary and I had the privilege of serving our parents in their final days here. In fact, for my dad and her mother too, she and I moved off the mission field and moved back home. I'm an only child, and did not have brothers and sisters to help. So I moved back home, and we took care of my father until he died at 92. And it was an honor to do that. It was an honor to serve him. And there were many times when it wasn't fun, but it was an honor. And I felt like I was serving Jesus. So do all you can to find ways to serve more and more people. If you've been given a place of authority in the church, use it to care for those under you. When God gives you recognition or authority, use that authority for the good of others by serving them. Use the influence that you have to open doors for other people. If you find yourself living among the poor or those with less education or experience than yourself, humbly use what you have to inform them and to guide them and to help them, to serve them. We have to understand that all that we are and all that we have been given has been given to us by God, and we're to use it to serve others. Like the song says, if you want to be great in God's kingdom, learn to be the servant of all. So servant leadership is one of our core values, and it's included in our vision statement. To equip and serve leaders is part of our vision statement. And I said it's also a core value of WIM. True greatness in God's kingdom is measured by service.